Thank you, Benita, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests. Who here can tell me who invented the light bulb?
Edison.
Anyone?
Thomas Edison.
Or Tesla?
Tesla.
Those are the two most common answers. In actuality, Joseph Swan invented and patented the light bulb in England a year before Thomas Edison came out with his light bulb. There was an identical copy of Mr. Swan's. What about the American assembly line? Who can tell me who invented that?
Ford.
Ford. That's the most common answer in America.
Some guy
Ford, we all think. Eli Whitney is the gentleman who gets credit for actually starting the first American assembly line. He was assembling muskets on an assembly line long before cars were assembled in America. What about the pyramids in Egypt? Who built the pyramids in Egypt? Who can tell me that?
slaves.
Aliens.
Aliens! That is what the internet has taught me. Well, commonly it's credited to Egyptian slaves or the Egyptian people. Aliens are actually who invented the pyramids, according to the internet.
Really?
The internet told me this. It's true.
Wow. Must be.
So what I'm leading up to is that throughout history, many people get credit for things they aren't necessarily due the credit. When people think of Babe Ruth, the baseball player, he's often credited as the best baseball player in the history of the sport. I think you'll find today that Ty Cobb is actually the best baseball player to ever play the sport. The first vote for the American Baseball Hall of Fame took place shortly after the end of Ty Cobb's baseball career. Out of all the people on the ballot, Ty Cobb took the most votes at over 70% first place. He took far more votes than Babe Ruth, whose career had also ended, and Honus Wagner, who's considered the best player in the league, along with Ty Cobb. The 1942 Sporting News took a poll of all active players, all active managers, all ex-managers they could find. And in that 1942 poll, after Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb's career, all of his contemporaries thought Ty Cobb was the best player in baseball. His .367 career batting average is still the highest batting average in baseball, even though it's been over 100 years since he started playing baseball. No one's eclipsed that mark. As a matter of fact, from 1940 to now, only 13 people have actually batted higher in one season than Ty Cobb averaged over his career. He's the youngest player in the history of the sport to reach 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 hits, all major milestones in the sport of baseball. When he retired from baseball, he led the league in runs, steals, averages, singles, doubles. All over the board, he was considered the greatest. Ty started his career in 1910 and was known around the league as a tough competitor and a tough guy. But his reputation started to falter. True story, 101 years ago from today, May 15th, 1912. Ty Cobb was at a game, and also attending this game was a gentleman named Claude Luker. Claude was known to enjoy the alcohol, and he was attending the game, and he was heckling Ty Cobb pretty bad. He was yelling at him, screaming at him, and then he started in on Ty's mom. Started saying some nasty things about Ty's mom, and started heckling his team. Then he started saying some racial things, which at the time was a big deal, especially to the Georgian peach. So Ty went into the stands to defend his honor, and he mercilessly beat this man up in the stands. Until Ty got into the stands and fought this man, he didn't realize that Claude Luker actually had no hands. He had lost both of his hands in an industrial accident. So Ty beat this man, and he didn't have any hands. He immediately got a reputation as a terrible person. From that point on, he was hated throughout the league. Tell you, I believe this goes to the detriment of his reputation as a baseball player. There are many other things in his career that will tell you he was a bad person. He was known for spiking people. He would sharpen the cleats to a point on his shoes and then slide into base and spike you, take out chunks. He was not a good man. He's also known for fighting, not just people in the stands, but in the World Series, in bars, restaurants, rail cars. He's known as an awful man. This contributed to the fact that he's not remembered as a great baseball player, because he's a bad man. Another reason Ty Cobb's lost luster in the annals of baseball history is because he played in the dead ball era. There are other players that are considered better baseball players because of the Babe Ruths, the Willie Mays, the Hank Aaron's are considered better players because they hit a lot more home runs. They hit the ball with power. What people that consider those players better don't know is that Ty Cobb played in what's called the dead ball era. In this era, the ball was not tightly wound together. So it would come apart and break apart and make it a lot harder to hit farther. It was also common in those days for pitchers to flaw the surface of a baseball, making it hard to hit. They would spit on it, literally take the ball and spit on it to change the weight. They would scuff it. They would rub it on their spikes and scuff it. It was also reused hundreds and hundreds of times over the course of a game or 2 games, whereas now, the ball's replaced every other pitch. I believe that the dead ball era and Ty's reputation as a bad person are what have led history to not give him the credit he's due for being the best baseball player ever. I'd like to close with a little story. In closing, a little story. At the age of 73, his body riddled by cancer. Ty Cobb was asked, Ty, these baseball players now, they have it easy. Get your pitches off the mound. They've got these wood bats. They're all sawed to perfection. They're not handmade. How do you think you fare against today's modern pitcher? Ty says, well, honestly, I'd probably hit about 310, 305. And the reporter asks, Ty, that's 50 or 60 points below your career average. Why would you hit so low? He said, well, son, you must remember I'm 73 years old. Shortly after that, Ty Cobb passed away. The New York Times, the paper of Babe Ruth, his hometown paper, had the headline, Ty Cobb, hailed as the greatest to ever play the sport, mourned by all of baseball. Thank you.